Yeah.
What's up?
There we go. I like it.
Oh my God.
I was gonna say you can't
I'm balding.
hide. You got that mirror behind you.
I hate it. I hate this mirror. This mirror reminds me that I'm approximating middle age.
Oh no. Oh right.
No!
Well, you got the Evil Dead poster though behind you. So
I
helps.
do. I should place that strategically directly behind me though.
Sure, behind you. So that way it looks like Ash is just always like coming up behind you with a chainsaw.
Oh God, I wish. I wish. No, here's the thing though. Like, I feel okay. I'll say this.
Okay.
I really want to shave my head, and
Okay.
it is to make no specific statement about anything, except for the fact that I'm aware of my situation, and I don't want to grow my hair out and have a skullet. But the class that I'm TAing right now, it's sociology, and the first video we watch, the first thing the students see is about white nationalism. So I can't do this. I can't do it. It's the skullet or people think I'm racist. There's two options.
Oh, that's rough. I mean, could you find something else to show them first out of the gate? Is it not your lesson plan?
No, I mean, it is what it is, and I do want to say that white nationalism is wrong, but I also don't want to do my hair every day, so it's difficult.
Yeah,
that's a good way to start this, right?
That is a good way to start this. I like how you were concerned, like, oh well, I don't want to start.
I don't want to say anything problematic. Let's not start yet.
Oh wait, were you live?
Let's reveal my deepest insecurity and say I'm not racist in the first minute. That's nice. That's good.
That's good. That's how you know it's an honest conversation. That's fantastic. Well, okay, for those of you who are unfortunate not to have known you before this moment, you're a professor, right?
I'm not a professor yet, so I'm a graduate student right now, but I'm also an instructor.
Okay.
So, oh God, I'm gonna sound like an asshole if I go through my titles, but technically I'm a PhD candidate, which is when you advance. Okay. So there's a lot of different stages in grad school. In my department, you concentrate, which is you demonstrate that you know the literature in your area and the science. Then typically every PhD has an advancement where you propose your projects, and the people on your committee say, "Good, you know enough to do your stuff," and then you're a PhD candidate. But in my department, when you're a master's, you can start teaching your own classes. So I am an instructor, not a professor, not a doctor. All my students call me doctor or professor, and I tell them it's just Alex, and they still call me professor and doctor. So yes, this is not something new, and I'll say that once, but you can keep doing it because my students do it anyway. There's no power trip off of this, though.
I'm here with Dr. Professor Alex Bauer.
Well, they have called me Professor Alex, which I find very adorable.
Aw, yeah. No, just call me Alex. Okay, Professor Alex.
Mr. Alex.
Because that sounds like kindergartner class, like, and
it really does.
Alex here to sing you a song.
No, that's I've thought about doing like improv-y stuff in class, and I kind of do.
Yeah.
But it comes off weird, like you talk about tone. With improv, you're going in expecting to laugh, but with class, you're going in expecting to learn. And when the professor if they're even a professional comedian, it turns them off fucking immediately. Like, oh, you think you're so good, funny man? Why aren't you doing comedy? I'm like, actually, I am.
There are 24 hours in the day, and I'm not here all the time. So.
There are 24 hours in a day, and I hate myself for every one of them. All right, so let's just all get through
this. So nothing you say is going to make it worse. Don't worry. Well, okay, so that brings it up too, though. You are a comedian as well. You're an improv comedian. You work a lot with Gina and Devin, who I interviewed yesterday from Improv City. And you also have your own streaming on Twitch.
Yeah, I just started a streaming channel. It's called Nintendo Bauer. So Nintendo is a Nintendo, and Bauer as in BOWER. And I'm still waiting to see if Nintendo's going to sue me over that. But yeah, we're starting next week. I'm going to be streaming retro video games. So I have Castlevania, Ninja Gaiden, Friday the 13th, just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. What had you been wanting to do this for a while, right? I saw your posting that you were like, I'm finally getting to it.
I'm doing that thing that people do when they're assholes and they say they're going to do a project and they say it for a few years and then they do it for 1 week and stop. But we'll see. But yeah, I've been wanting to do it forever. It's mainly been like the technological component. And I had to get like all of this equipment anyway, because I have to do this for teaching. So I thought, this is a good opportunity to, actually get it and start this.
Nice. Well, that is nice. That I love it when you've got your passion project and then like your day job is just sort of making it possible, where it's like, oh, I have to buy that equipment anyways. Oh, well, I did that too with, I have 2 like light panels here that, as you can see with the shadows, which they need to be adjusted because I'm not a professional lighter. But I bought these specifically because I was doing my day job, wanted to start doing some like web videos, which we've yet to get around to. Like we shot one of them and then they have me doing so many other things that they like haven't actually said sit down and edit them. So like I just haven't had time in my own schedule. So anyways, but long story short, I had to buy these light panels for that. And I was like, well, that's great because I've always like wanted my own little light kit anyway. So now I own these.
So what are the videos that you want to do?
Well, for me, it was more of like this kind of stuff. And then also I self-record a lot of auditions. So previously, like it was like, okay, which light bulb in my house is the brightest? And I have like this like overhead shadow. So like every audition I was doing looked like a horror film, like, hire me, please. Like just awful auditions I was sending in. And so I knew I wanted to get like a light kit for that, but I don't know, it's hard to justify. It was for me anyways. It's like, it's hard to justify getting a light kit for something that is such a low guarantee of ever getting money from. Even though that's stupid, the chances of getting a gig goes way up once you actually have the lights. But
well, I think that's like one of the things about the situation now, right? Where the opportunities like outside our house are so limited, obviously. Yeah. So if you can just like stock up on equipment and just create, where you are, like that's the other impetus for like why I did this, right? Because I can't go anywhere. I need that human interaction. I need to be a performer in some capacity. So Twitch or like Improv City, like we're streaming our shows live. Yeah. You don't have to leave the house. Now the quality of these streams is varying because this is new for everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Sure.
But I'll say the Improv City stream last night was great. But everyone's just like throwing everything at the wall right now. It's obviously this is like a crisis. But it's a magical moment for artists right now where you're just seeing the weirdest fucking stuff from people that would otherwise not be putting content out at all.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. I think it's so fun and refreshing just seeing everybody in the way they're handling it and like how they're using the time to create. And yeah, like you said, it's like, oh, here's that project that I've always wanted to do that I've never had the time to do. Now I'm doing it. And you're kind of like, wow, that's the project. Like, okay, interesting.
Yeah. It feels like the Wild West. It feels like anything goes right now.
Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite, one of the local Facebook groups out here, they literally, when this went down, local comedian Facebook groups, I should say, they like, the owner was just like, whatever, he literally was like, this is the Wild West. I don't care. Post whatever you want in this page anymore. He's like, your dumb sketch that I always deleted, post it. I don't care anymore. Because it's just like, yeah, we need to be creating. That's the only way to keep sane.
Yeah, it's like there's so many. There's going to be you know how people are estimating that there's going to be like a baby boom based on this because everyone's stuck inside with each other. Yeah, people are. So like in 9 months from now, there are going to be so many babies being born.
Oh right? Yeah.
People are bored. People are stuck in close quarters. There's the baby boom. There's going to be the podcast boom. Like, there are going to be so many podcasts coming out of this.
So many new podcasts. Yeah. Well, and that fed into my decision of doing a Facebook Live versus a podcast. Because I was like, I knew I wanted to be doing something and whatever, but I wanted to have face-to-face conversations with people, which I could still put this up on a podcast, but.
Yeah, but there's like an immediate satisfaction with this too, right? Like you could have viewers and interact with them, like we were talking earlier on Twitch. Like you have a feed and you look in the chat and you can answer people's questions in real time and stuff, and it's less, it's more immediately satisfying, right?
Right, which has always been my thing as far as why I'm a comedian and not because I went to school for film. That was like my passion. That's what I wanted to do, but it takes so much. It takes so much time, so much effort, so much community, to do it. That's even also why I ended up drifting more towards stand-up instead of improv, because that takes so much teamwork and you're reliant on other people and stuff, and I'm just not very patient. So I was like, all right, alone, stand up, here we go. And same with film. It's like just so much work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, improv it's a tricky little beast, isn't it? Because it's a lot of work learning what the dynamic is. Because people have this assumption about improv that you're like immediately either good or not good at it. And some people certainly do have talent, like some sort of inborn talent for it. But a lot of it's trained. And I mean, we went through Second City together, like, how long it takes and how much work it actually is to like get to a dynamic. And thankfully, we all got along incredibly well in the BFFs.
From the start, our class was, from the start, we got along well.
I think about it a lot, actually. I saw a picture the other day. There was one of the, it wasn't, Jeff Bueno wasn't in it yet, but I think I was it was Jenna's class, and I was the only guy in it. And I saw the picture and I remembered it. I'm like, well, it's such a weird, visceral memories of that.
Well, yeah, that class in particular was just a wild.
It was something. So if you're watching, we had a teacher who, Jenna Jolowitz, I think was her last name.
Wow, yeah, good for you for remembering your last name.
My memory is shit otherwise. I have Wikipedia and I have Jenna Jolowitz, and that's all I remember. So she was our
engraved, and I can see why she's engraved in your memory, though. Like,
yeah. It's odd. She's one of those like tough love teachers where you hate or love her. There's no neutral feelings there.
Yeah.
But what was it? Was improv 3? Were we in con yet?
Yeah, because that was the class right before con, or I'm sorry, right before the auditions.
Right before the auditions to get into con 5 or whatever it was for the show.
Right, the next level.
That's right. So yeah, we had this teacher, and she was this very, very intense. And like one of our exercises, I just remember, like she would sit us next to each other, and we'd have to stare each other in the eye. You say the first thing that comes to mind. Don't make it funny. Just like say the first thing. And like people ended up crying and shit. And like, thank God we were all super tight before that. Like we would get drunk across the street before every single class.
Yeah.
It was so intense though. And like, speaking of that, like I had a margarita the other night, and I'm like, I miss tequila so much. Like I miss it so much.
It's still around.
It is. Yeah. Do you remember, oh God, what was it Sammy that was our waitress?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to her really recently. She just had a baby.
No kidding.
Yeah, she has like a whole family now too, and she moved to, God, I forget. I forget. See, now my memory is Jenna's taking over everything.
It's too much of it.
Yeah, but she, I was talking with her, and she was taking classes at like UCB and everything. Like we had a whole circle. It was almost like Cheers. We had a whole circle of like people that we all knew, and it was such a good time, such good memories. But Jenna was intense.
She was, yeah. That's one of those things I always recommend to people who are just, because I started Second City right as I had moved to California. And so I knew no one out there. I mean, I think I knew like 1 or 2 people, but for the most part, I didn't really know anyone. I didn't really have very many friends out there. And I had always wanted to take Second City classes. So I was like, well, here's the Hollywood school. Like, I'm just going to take it just for fun. I'm not going to, because at that time I was still like too scared to actually say I'm pursuing any sort of comedy as a lifestyle. So I started taking that, and that's where I met all of you guys. And it was the best way to make friends out there. It really was. Because it was, like you said, we got to know each other so well. Just playing together. Yeah.
That's improv. It's so like intimate. Like it's almost entirely founded on trust. Like I trust you to make me look good. I trust you not to fuck me over in a scene. Like I trust us. I trust you emotionally and intellectually to build something good. And when you do, like, you work really well together. And we all had very similar senses of humor too. Like, we're all very stupid. We're smart, but we're very stupid.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like we were all very, very smart, but like when it came to her humor, it was always like, and then a sea monster on the potty. Oh, random.
But it was the joy though, because like we all knew what each other's sense of humor was, and like we could be intelligent outside of that, and we could be intelligent in scenes, but like we knew what made each other laugh. That's what was so fun about it.
Right. Some of our favorite, some of my favorite ones that stick out to me were always like the most ridiculous, silly scenes. Like, oh my God. It was fun. It was such a good time.
All the ones that involved Gina and poop, and they were usually inclusive to each other.
Specifically, like the one I remember the most, like Gina was a sea monster. I don't know.
What was it like? Oh God, I stepped on my mic. It was like
that was exactly what it was.
I'm a sea monster. So funny.
Like awkward Gina, like so innocent and sweet, like, oh, I'm a sea monster. Like, oh my God.
That's where George was born. Do you know George is still around? The Gina Dugan alternate personality of George?
I did not realize that.
Yes, that's where George was first born, was in that conservatory, and he still lives to this day, occasionally.
That's amazing. Wow, God, great to hear.
Now, speaking of problematic, George is problematic. I'm glad he's not always out, but it's
not yet. He only comes out for very specific sketches, very specific scenes, but when he does, George is problematic.
George is going to get canceled.
Oh my God.
Do you remember George Kaliotis, though?
Yes. Yeah.
He's like a math teacher, I think. I was following him on Facebook and Instagram, and he was like our music. Was he one of our music directors for a class?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a math teacher. It's so interesting how people come from like different backgrounds when they do this.
Yeah. I know, it is really interesting. And it's interesting to see where people have gone and where they've taken it. And I think improv and comedy in general, like, if you're good at that, it helps you in all aspects of your career, no matter wherever you take it, you know. And obviously you can use it as teachers. It helps you with students, I'm sure.
There's so I'm writing a book chapter right now for a book that's being published by Cornell, and it's meant for new teachers and graduate student teachers. Mm-hmm. And my whole chapter is like using improv as like a mindset for dealing with classroom challenges. So like you can prepare in various ways, and like I talk about like how we can use like actual teaching resources and techniques, but it's also about like being open to experience, and not everything that's unforeseen is a bad thing, right? Like some of the best conversations I've had as a teacher in my class are like when people bring something up that seemingly is out of nowhere. Like it's just super weird, or it's like a really interesting question. Not like when people bring up like, you know, my uncle did, not like always like that.
Yeah.
But being open to like when you have a classroom, it's like when I teach, it's like about 60 to 80 people. Wow. All those people have like their own unique lives, right? They have their own unique experiences and perspectives and all that. So when I'm teaching something, I can share my perspective. I can share the literature and the science and everything, but they have really good and interesting questions. And if you're not open to that possibility that someone's going to throw you a wrench sometimes, you're going to fuck up. So you have to be open to that. And you have to respect your students, respect their intelligence, and respect the fact that you're all trying to, you know, do something. You have a common goal, which is understanding psychology better in this case.
Yeah.
And that's like improv. Your common goal is to make a good scene and collaborate in doing that. No one's driving everything. Obviously, a teacher is facilitating and in charge and structuring things.
Sure.
But it's all collaboration.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm glad you brought up the psychology aspect of it, because that was always one of my favorite things about working with you, is that you would approach it with the psychology understanding. And it was always just very interesting to, I don't know, hear you talk about it, of like whatever, you know, was going on, and how comedy affects people's psychology is just an interesting topic to me in general.
Yeah, it's something I was always interested in studying formally. But only recently have I like actually started doing studies looking at what's going on.
Yeah.
Like one of the studies, so like in improv, we do ending games or line games where you have to come up with jokes in the spot. So like a cow walks into a bar and you finish it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm looking right now at like what the psychological processes are of people, like just regular participants and students when they're doing this.
Oh, wow.
So like, can we model, and when I say model, I mean like predict. Can we predict based on data how funny jokes are going to be? Like, are there properties of the words that make them more likely to be funny? Are their placement inside sentences? Their relationship to the suggestion? I think some people say that studying comedies psychologically or even scientifically in a broad sense kind of kills it. And I think that's true in some way.
Yeah.
But in another way, that's to say that it's mystical. Like it's this ephemeral thing.
Know why we laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know why we laugh, but I'm also saying that there's fundamentally a psychological process happening, right? Yeah. We all have brains. Every comedian has a brain. How are they coming up with this stuff? That's fascinating. Yeah. Like you are poking a dead frog, but the frog was alive at one point. It's and the other studies that I'm doing right now, I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but I'm really interested in developing humor and artificial intelligence and what our actual relationship is as humans with artificial intelligence in the respect that they have different human characteristics, right? My personal belief, and I don't know that this is backed up by data, so that's why I give the disclaimer, is that we would rather have like intimate relationships with robots than laugh at their jokes.
Okay.
And I think that's a power dynamic, right?
Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, because it's just funny that you would word it that way, but it's understanding the intelligence of a robot. Like we don't really want to admit that.
Well, think about every single movie or TV show where humans have an emotional or sexual relationship with a robot, right? Yeah. The robot is usually like this super naive thing, like, and we're like, we're their benevolent overlords, and we're teaching them what it's like, you know?
Yeah.
But
even the, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but remember Bicentennial Man?
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I would think about.
Yeah, where it's like, it's Robin Williams is a robot. This should be hysterical. And it was like, no, I mean, it's, like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so there could be jokes that went right over my head as a kid. But like, from what I remember, he was not a funny robot. He was a very serious, learning the world robot.
Yeah, it was interesting casting, right? I think that was during that period. It was around like the time of Good Will Hunting, where he was trying to break out more serious roles,
doing more dramatic roles.
Yeah, but he totally was that role where he was a child, but then he had if I remember correctly, it's been like 20 years. Didn't he have like a relationship with the daughter that was in the family at one point? Like a romantic relationship.
Yeah, he might have. I don't remember.
But it's like I was saying, it's that power dynamic, right? So humor is intelligence. Humor is a form of like dominance in a way. It's like it's demonstrating your intelligence and your social, acuity. And to laugh at a robot is to surrender like part of what's human, right? You're saying, oh, you're human too.
There you go. That was my in-laws.
Do we have a call-in?
Yeah, we have a call-in from my brother.
To the viewers. Sorry, I get really interested when I'm talking about like artificial intelligence and how they're human and stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's super interesting. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like there is that sort of, that is a power dynamic for sure, that people aren't comfortable. And I don't want to put comedians on too lofty of a thing, but it is, you have to be smart to be a comedian. Even if your humor is super ridiculous and dumb, you still have to be smart to, understand the science formula behind a joke. And even if you don't even realize that that's what you're doing, right? Yeah. So to have robots that are telling you jokes, and people aren't comfortable with that. Whereas on the flip side, you would think it would be different of like like you said, having intimate relationships with a robot. You wouldn't think that would be as comfortable as like having a robot tell you a joke, but it's the flip. It's like you're more comfortable with that because it's just like, pleasure toy or whatever, I guess.
Yeah. That's exactly it. They're a toy. They're not human. Humor is this thing that we fundamentally see as being a human thing, a human trait. And the data is still coming in on this, so I can't make any statements. But some of the preliminary data that I've collected has suggested that people think humor, the reason that AI can't have humor or true humor that approximates us is because they don't understand context. So they're not perceptive. It's not so much about writing jokes. It's more of understanding social dynamics and situations.
Yeah.
Like they could tell a knock-knock joke that's good as a knock-knock joke is or whatever. Right. But like having an exchange with someone and coming up with a good joke or some sort of sarcastic quip on the fly, they think that's outside the range of a robot. And I don't know if that's true or not. We have really good bots right now. We have good.
Yeah, I don't know if we're able to have chat boxes help us fix our computers, and whatever else chat bots do. But I feel like most larger businesses use chat bots now to have those communications. So if you're able to have that, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to have.
We have that.
Yeah,
that's the thing. People don't believe this. We do have that. Companies like Amazon, Apple, they're all trying to develop their user interface, like Siri and things like that, to use humor. Not just like Siri, tell me a joke, but like they want to have this exchange. It's not just about being funny. It's about actually communicating with something that seems human.
Right.
People's beliefs about robots and artificial intelligence are so interesting. Like I read a paper 2 weeks ago, and people were doing a game with a robot. It was a problem-solving game, and they had to work cooperatively.
Yeah.
And the robots were better than humans at helping other humans out.
Yeah.
And this was remotely, so you're like working with them online. You're not seeing the other person or AI on the other end.
Okay.
But even when people were told that on the other end it's an AI, and the AI is doing really well, they were less likely to trust them than a human that was performing worse.
Wow.
So these belief systems with robots and AI are just so fucking fascinating. And we're so close to like developing good ones, like very, very good ones. Are we ready for that though?
Well, that's the question. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's just like one aspect that I'm trying to see, because humor is such a fundamental one. And obviously it's interesting to me. Are we receptive to that? Do we find that threatening? I read an article that was posted in, oh God, it might have been Medium, but I think anyone can post in Medium.
Yes.
That's not a dig at Medium.
No. I actually really didn't hear that. And they make that clear up front when you go on there. They're like, hey, anyone can post here. Yeah. The views are not about us. But yeah.
There were a few articles that I read. You had to write like so I had to apply for grant money, and in my review I cited some like popular opinion pieces. And one of them was, as soon as we teach AI what humor is, and they get good humor, they're going to start killing us as a joke. And I see this opinion. I've seen this opinion several times. I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from?
They're going to start killing us as a joke?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't understand. It's such a like widespread sort of belief. I don't know where it's coming from. I think it's just a fundamental distrust of it, right?
That is so funny. There was a short film a long time ago that I'll have to find and send you, but it was like a horror short film that someone made that was about like in the not so distant future where we've got robots, as friends and stuff like that. And they, not to ruin the end of the short film, but I don't remember what's called anyway. So whatever. I remember that the end of it was, the mom was having some sort of conflict with her son or something like that. And the robot took like whatever the mom was saying literally and ended up like killing the son as a result. Cause I think she said like, I'm going to kill you. Like, oh, if you don't do something, like I'm going to kill you or something like that. And like, so the robot like followed through with it because he took what they were saying literally. And it was just it's such an interesting, like, everyone has that perception with AI and robots that they can only take things literally.
They don't understand nuance. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't understand, like, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's exactly that thing of like, they're going to start killing us as a joke.
I would be really, so you're a comedian. Like, what are your like instinctual thoughts about this? Like, do you feel like robots can be funny? Like on our level?
You know what? It's interesting. I don't know per se. I see. Well, okay, so I see the immediate benefit of it of like, if you could, give a robot a topic and then they write a joke for you. Just like imagine the like late night shows process is going to go so much quicker, because you would still need. I mean, I feel like, anyways, you would still need human writers. I'm so sorry. My whole like family, they're trying to figure out how to get on Skype together. So that's why I'm like, I'm getting like all these dings of like, well, where are you? Where are you? And it's just ironic, like here I am having this like conversation with you about like AI and future intelligence. Like one of my brother-in-laws who lives in Australia, he was like, I thought we were meeting at Applebee's. Where are you guys? Like,
oh my God. The pandemic will not stop Applebee's.
Never. But yeah, like I don't know. Like I feel like you would still need to have a like human writers kind of vetting out the comedy per se, and making sure that it is palatable and not like, oh, well, that was a really insensitive joke. Like, okay, no, that's not appropriate. But at the same time, though, like it would be amazing if you could just, like as a Tonight Show writer, be like, we need to talk about, whatever, president and spray cans. Yeah. Well, I don't know why I came up with that on spot, but it's just, and you type it in, and then like the robot AI formulates like 500 jokes based off of what they think, and then the humans kind of sort through. It's a very interesting idea.
So do you think it's better to have the robots write the jokes and humans vet them, or they maybe write cooperatively?
I don't know. I mean, because what in that realm, how would they work cooperatively? Like an actual like back-to-back conversation with it, like
I mean, you could have we're talking about chatbots. You could have a chatbot that's like maybe proposing stuff, and like you're giving it feedback on how well it's doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Like I don't know what it looks like necessarily yet, because this is so new.
Exist yet.
It doesn't exist yet.
One of the things that they teach you in beginning comedy writing, which I'm sure but like for those who aren't comedians like ourselves, I forget what it's called, but like the circle graph basically of like or cloud graph, I think it's called, or something, when you're trying to come up with a joke, and it's like you have an item and you just make a circle with that like word, and then you branch off, and like everything that you think of when you think of that word, you write down, and then from there you sort of build the joke from there. So it's interesting to have that, you having the AI who's coming up with that cloud thought, and you just working together on it. It's cool.
That's the semantic element of it. So you have associations, right? You have like a word net.
Yeah.
And you have things that are closely related and distantly related. I actually have been working on a mathematical model for this. It's not in a state where I'd share it yet. But it's related to that. The hard part, I think, and I'm not a roboticist, I'm not a programmer, I'm a cognitive scientist. But I think the hard part is syntax, right? Like how do the words go together, and what's the optimal delivery, right? So you can put a joke on Twitter and fundamentally have like the same idea, but like word it differently, and some words are better. So like one of the things that we learn in improv and in joke writing is that you want your last word to be like the funny part, right? Yes. If you deliver it too early, it's not surprising at the end. Your setup and your punch, the punch needs to come late.
Right.
So you can express the same idea, but just the syntax of it can be different, and that affects how good it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So the syntax is the really hard part, I think.
Yeah.
And different styles of humor, right? Like AI is good at anti-humor. It writes real good anti-humor, like non-jokes, if you find that funny.
That we chatted a little bit beforehand, but I mean, seriously, the motivational posters that a couple years ago that AI bot made is one of the funniest things I had ever read, because it was a AI bot someone made that like took algorithms on Twitter and just slowly like it would make these motivational posters, and they just got so dark so quick to a point that you're like, is everybody okay? Like it's basing it off of what people are writing on Twitter, and it is get like so off the rails dark. And it would put like, it would be like a photo of a waterfall, and then it was just like, I don't know, everybody, when it rains, it rains. It was just like,
When it rains, we die.
Yeah. It was like, what? And some of them were just like gibberish words that like didn't even make sense. You're just like, what? But this was a couple years ago that came out, so I'm sure it's growing at such a rapid rate. I'm sure it's improved vastly.
You know what, though? I'm not willing to bet that it's not the programmers themselves doing that on purpose.
It could be.
I feel like that's intention. It might have started unintentionally, but then they realized it's very funny and then made it intentional.
Like, let it go. Just let it go. Yeah, keep it going because it's hysterical. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me, for some reason, of Garfield without Garfield, or Garfield minus Garfield. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I love talking to himself.
Why is Garfield this weird thing that's become like a cultural meme? Where you have Garfield minus Garfield, and then what's the other one where it's he's like always killing John, or he's like a Lovecraftian monster? Have you seen this before?
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Oh Jesus, I don't know why I'm forgetting what it's called, but there's like a whole subreddit devoted to this.
Oh my God. Well, one of my favorite just Bill Murray moments is in the Zombieland where he's like, I have no regrets except for Garfield. The only thing I regret, maybe Garfield.
I'm gonna access my Wikipedia part of my brain right now and give a hot piece of trivia. Yeah. So in the 1980s there was a Garfield cartoon. In the Garfield cartoon, he was played by Lorenzo Music. Have you ever seen the Garfield cartoon, Garfield and Friends?
Yeah.
Okay, so the voice actor was Lorenzo Music. And there was also a Ghostbusters cartoon at that time called The Real Ghostbusters.
I remember that too, yeah.
Okay, and Venkman was not played by Bill Murray. He is played by Lorenzo Music, who also did Garfield. So the connection is interesting later on because he plays Garfield, but that's Bill Murray.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, it's really interesting and weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love Small World. Oh my gosh.
I love cartoon facts. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, on a similar note, but one day I watched Blues Brothers and Ghostbusters back to back, right? And with the commentary, because it's just, I love commentary. And they had been talking about, like, in Blues Brothers, there was a day of shooting where no one could find John Belushi. He just was gone. And like, at that point, that was like his heyday of drugs and mental illness or whatever. And so like, it was not that uncommon for him to just disappear, but they were trying to shoot, so they couldn't find him. They were trying to look for him or whatever. And they found him at a neighboring house. And apparently he had just walked into this like house that's not associated with the shoot at all. And was like, I'm John Belushi and I'm hungry. And he just like, when they found him, he was like in the fridge with a thing of milk, and he just was drinking this gallon of milk, and his like family's like watching him like, okay. And so then later on, I was watching Ghostbusters with the commentary, and there's that scene where Slimer is in the fridge chugging milk or orange juice or something.
Oh.
And Dan Aykroyd actually said, he goes, this, and he didn't bring up the Blues Brothers story, but he said, he goes, Slimer, we always felt was the ghost of John Belushi. We, made this scene we made him just sort of in honor of his essence or whatever like that.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's the best fucking way to storm into someone's house. I'm John Belushi and I'm hungry.
Yeah, and just rape.
Not even go for the food, just go for the milk and chug it out of the
They said it down like Dora, but it's like.
I think I've heard that about Slimer before. That's really interesting, though.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, I had heard that about Slimer, but watching, like, I don't know what I was doing. Watching it back to back, it was awesome. But it was just such an interesting. Where they talked about that one scene, and then to immediately see, I was like, oh my God, that is the scene that they just described. And I mean, Blues Brothers was made in the 70s or early 80s, I think.
I think 1980, I think.
80. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Ghostbusters was made
84.
84. So, okay.
So, okay, I want to update something really fast. I had the Wikipedia part of my brain, the Jenna Jolowitz part of my brain, and then movie dates, the part of my brain. That's it. I don't know why. So when you think about like time and the passage of time and years, do you use like a reference point? Ooh. Like I use like for instance, like when I think of 1997, I think of Men in Black. Like that is my reference point. Do you have something like that?
I don't know. I can't say that I do. But
like, you don't remember years as being like this thing. Like, this is the year Space Jam came out, or this is the year, The Phantom Menace came out. And that's my reference for that year.
Or movies of it. Interesting. I don't think I do per se. But mine's more specific where it's like, oh, I remember, that. Well, I'm also, okay, so I am horrible at time. And I'm really bad about like when something happened. I've always been naturally just like bad at knowing what day it is or how long something took or what, I'm very bad with time. And so that's interesting that you have those sort of like chapter markers of like, I remember that day or that year because that came out or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, because wasn't that yesterday? I don't know.
Everyone's signing their emails off now, like happy whatever the fuck day it is.
Yeah, it's funny that this has been extremely hard for me because I already just naturally had a bad sense of what day it was. And so now that every day is like Groundhog's Day the same, I'm just like, whatever. I have no idea. No idea.
It's hard when you have students too, because like I have the same feeling and we have to like, excuse me, I have to post stuff for them. Yeah, it's like, where am I? When are my office hours? I put them up. I don't think they remember. Oh God, like time is just a construct now. Like truly, it's just a construct.
And it's like, when did you post that? It's like, well, I feel like I just posted that an hour ago. Oh, it was 6 days ago? Okay, let me make sure everyone knows.
Well, I just posted some studies and I'm collecting data online and I posted them at like 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. And I had students sign up to do them and doing the experiments at like 2 a.m. I had like 20 people between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. doing it. Like, what the fuck are they doing? They have nothing else to do right now. I'm glad. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
But we live in a bizarro world right now.
Right. Well, you know what though? I mean, I don't know how many of your students have kids, but mine, I've definitely been pushed to the shadows of night right now to get any work done, because during the day, my kid is just like, she's 2, so she's all over me and just constantly, wanting to do something that makes it, or she's obsessed with my laptop. So I'm trying to work and then her little like flopping down on it and shuts it down. Like it literally happened where she just kicked my computer while I was working on it, turned it off. And I was like, well, okay, there goes all the work I was doing. Like,
is she a cat?
She has spirit of a cat. Surprisingly, my cat doesn't get along with her because of that.
Oh.
No, she so it's been interesting because my day job, I had kind of like a disagreement with them where they're like, well, we need you on your computer monitoring your emails between 9 to 5. And I was like, guys, I can't, like, I'm going to try, but so instead I'm sending out emails at 2 a.m. Almost, I don't know. It's almost like a different time zone,
Do they care though? I mean, like, unless you have notifications open, what does a late email matter?
Yeah,
unless like it's time sensitive, but like otherwise.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was their thing. It was like they wanted more immediate action on stuff, and for them to have to wait late at night. And I was like, oh, that's valid. That makes sense. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't really know what else I can do, because it's like when you have this kid who wants to be in your face, up and running around and doing stuff. Or I've seen so many parents who are like, we have only so many laptops in the house, and everyone, we got 3 kids, and they all have online school right now. So how do you balance
that's a good
that? Point. And the parents trying to work at the same time. And yeah, it's really weird. It's really wild right now.
I wonder if kids can use their phones maybe.
Yeah, I think
Jesus,
so.
that was a boomer ass thing to say.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, the ones that have them. Yeah. So my sister is interesting because she works at in a low income school district, but because of that, every student at that particular school has their own Chromebook. And that's just, the school does that. It's a public school, but that's the way they've funded things. And so she's like, we're at such an advantage because a lot of those kids don't have computers or internet at their houses, but because we had already provided them with their Chromebook, we're able to continue on with their studies. So it's interesting like that. Have you been running into, I mean, you're at the college level, so most should have their own computer at that point. It's kind of almost impossible to be in college and not have a computer at this point. But have you run into any students talking about that, or?
Everyone. I mean, most people have computers or some sort of way to connect, but it's a unique challenge that like we have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And even if they do have a computer, we have to be aware of the fact that like their internet connection might be bad based on what service they have.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to get like VPNs and finding ways to expand their bandwidth and things like that. And we also have been trying to avoid like having a live Zoom because we have you heard like Zoom bombings?
Yes.
Yeah. So
people.
I don't know. And it's less of like the content that they come in with, like they blast porn or whatever, which is bad, but like it's more of that we're afraid that they're accessing our networks, which they are, and then they're accessing our data and all of that. So we've had to take a lot of security measures to have to combat that.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it's something that we have to be aware of, and there are challenges that we never would have anticipated having. And thankfully, a lot of there hasn't been much student resistance, but there's a lot of student concern. And what's really sad is when this started, students were really angry at the schools for closing down and doing things online. Like they took it out kind of on us instructors. And it's like, you do realize that we're in the same situation. And if anything, like we're working harder to have to do this.
Right.
We have no choice.
Yeah. So many teachers that, especially like I said, my sister's a middle school teacher. At her level, there weren't a lot of teachers who had ever taught online before. And so they were very quickly having to learn what they were doing.
There's a lot of ways that you can do it. But it's really like up to your teaching style. Like I thrive on having live classrooms, right? Like I'm a performer. That's the aspect of me that I need to see my students and I need to be interfacing with them. I need to see their eyes and faces. I need to I need to read them like a room, like any room.
Right.
And the way I'm going to have to like reorganize this is record lectures instead. So the challenge is like, how do I meet with them? Like I'm going to have like mandatory office hours because I need to talk to them. I need to know they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Like emotionally and in the class, I need to know that they're keeping up.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's for teachers right now. I know it's hard on everyone. Obviously, like I'm not detracting from the experience of like healthcare or retail or whatever. Everyone's doing great.
Yeah.
But I know from the stance of teachers that it's hard right now. And we're really, most of us are doing our best and really trying to understand the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting though once we do go back, getting used to it again, getting used to normal again, because we'll have gone so long, like almost 2 months of these online classes and online communication.
I don't want to be a doomsayer, but I think it's going to be more than 2 months. I'm teaching in the summer, and UCI is already preparing for all summer classes. I can't, because this is live, I can't say things in an official way.
That's okay.
But I know that I'm teaching my class online, and there's a strong indication that it will be for summer too as well, which goes into September. So I don't know what normal is going to look like even when it happens. And there's already talk of expanding online classes to be more prevalent, even when it's safe to go out.
Wow.
Because it seems to be working because there's a lot of technological hiccups to start out with. It's hard. But when we've gotten the ball rolling, it seems like it's working very well for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be interesting. I'm one of those people that it's plan for the best, or I'm sorry, hope for the best, plan for the worst though. So I started this group to keep everyone positive, but at the same time, like I do like hearing what everyone's thoughts are on like when will we be able to be outside, and like what are we thinking about this and that, and just because it gets my own thing. And it's interesting too, because as we kind of were chatting a little bit before this started, when I started doing live videos, at that point our Ohio governor had said like no one's allowed in their offices for 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to schedule these every single day for 2 weeks because I'm not working, and this will be great. And now that's going to be an extra month. I'm like, okay, whoa, slow down. Like, how long is this going to last? And it's really got me thinking about like how, I don't know. It's just interesting because even though I was one of the early, I feel like within my community, I was one of the early people to be like, this is serious. We need to take this serious. So I still was like, but it's only going to be serious for 2 weeks and then we'll be right back to normal. And like, I don't know why I thought that way when every evidence was saying no.
That's
going to be longer.
That's just human. We when something scary happens, we want to deny it. It's easy to psychologically and emotionally distance ourselves from terrifying things. But I'll say something as a psychologist that will make you feel better. Is that we're very, very, very bad at forecasting how good or bad something will make us feel. So when people estimate how good they'll feel if they win the lottery, like they have a bump. Like if they actually win the lottery, they'll feel great for like, a few weeks or months. But after that, like if they were already sad, in daily life, they'll be sad again. Or if they were just like at a normal happy baseline, they're going to be happy again. They're not ecstatic. So how that ties into this situation is if people are terrified and scared and they don't think they'll adjust, odds are they will adjust very fast. I think that we as a society right now are like kind of getting used to this new way of living. It won't be like this forever, but this is the new normal for now. But human nature, we're survivors. And part of that survival instinct is that psychologically we have to adapt to new situations. So right now, I think even though the objective situation is getting worse and it's probably going to be at its worst within this month, psychologically we're becoming more adept at like dealing with this, right? So we're used to working remotely. We're used to going out for groceries and taking the proper precautions for that. So we're very adaptive. We're going to get through this, and even if this is weird for a long time, like we'll make it through it, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I'm so glad you're like, as a psychologist, humanity. This is why I'm studying AI to replace humans.
Humans are resilient. We're incredibly. So what I studied before, I studied the things I do now. Like I studied stress resistance and resilience and things like that. Positive psychology. Oh, wow. So we'll get through this. We're like I said, we're terrible at forecasting how bad or how unhappy or happy something will make us. If we feel like this is going to ruin our lives and we'll never be happy again, the good news is that we're probably wrong. Like we're going to return to whatever baseline we were at within a few weeks or a month. We're just getting used to it right now.
That's fascinating. Well, so how are you handling things on like a personal level?
So it's been weird. So I've been sick, and I don't suspect that it's coronavirus, but psychologically that takes a toll. Like I'm just. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say my at the very beginning of this, when they first announced that schools were closed, it wasn't even before they closed businesses in Ohio. My daughter, who had been going to daycare, had a stomach flu. And even though it's not the same symptoms whatsoever, I like called the doctor and I was like, should we get her tested? Is this the virus? And they were like, no, please do not come in here. Whatever you do, don't come in here. Yeah, it's being sick right now is scary.
Well, it's allergy season too, right? So it's everyone's getting their allergies and they're misattributing that to coronavirus. It is better to be safe than sorry. If you want to get tested and you think it is and you're able to get tested, I think it's a good thing. I haven't left my house properly in about 2 weeks. I've gone and walked my dog a few times to the neighborhood. I personally feel it's the safer bet to stay inside just in case, because it's some congestion. But outside of that, I've been busy with my work. I have 3 concurrent studies right now, and I have to prepare my class for the summer and TAing and all that. But fun stuff wise, like the stream, like getting that going, putting a list of games. Hooking everything up is even hard too, because I'm using I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's a Raspberry Pi. It's not the food. It's a tiny computer essentially, and I put emulators for old games on there. Disclaimer: I own all of these games, so don't sue me. So I play those through that, and hooking that into my system and being able to stream that has been sort of a project in itself. It took about 2-3 weeks to do that. So there's that, and that'll be fun next week. See how it can just ramble forever? This is because I've been practicing streaming. You have to just talk for 2 hours at a time without stopping. Even with no viewers.
You have been you have been preparing for this your whole life with academic and also with improv. Just ramble for 2 hours. Doesn't matter if anyone's watching. Just go. Like,
you assume no one's watching, but you hope they are.
Right.
And the other thing, so there's two other things I would say. Like, hanging out with my wife is obviously great, and hanging out with the dog is great sometimes if she gets along with the cats. And okay, God, there's a lot of things.
Yes.
Watching Star Trek: The Next Generation for the first time has been incredibly soothing because it's such an optimistic view of humanity, and I need that right now.
Yeah. Oh, fine. This is your first time watching it?
It is, because I watched it as a kid. I remember, so it premiered around the day I was born, actually, in 1987.
Oh, wow.
And my dad was a huge fan, so he watched it. But I have weird memories of like him watching it and me watching it and thinking it was boring because I was like 2 years old and nothing made sense about it.
Yeah.
But watching it now, and I don't know if you've ever watched it, but it has a very heavy early 90s, late 80s aesthetic to it.
Yes.
And you really have to be receptive to it.
Yeah. I talk about bookmarkers. So my sister and my dad, they've always been super into Star Trek, and they're actually watching the new Picard series together, which is like, they just have been super into it. And I remember them always watching that show. And I actually nicknamed Jean-Luc Picard, I would call him Captain Boring Bald Guy. And that was like what my thing, because to me it was like just so boring. And I was like, what is this space? I don't care about space. It's, and whatever. But yeah, that is funny. That show is it's very optimistic. And then there was something about like, it's probably just nostalgia, but like that 90s look that is just kind of, I don't know, it's funny and endearing to me.
Yeah, I need to, it's just nice. It's nice to see a view of humanity that's cooperative, and like things get resolved by the end of the episode. Like, we all work together despite our differences. And like, as divisive as we are now, and I don't know, like the politics and everything, it's funny to think back, right? Remember, what was the last debate, like 2 weeks ago or whatever? Again, time is amorphous right now. But you think it feels like a lifetime ago, right? Like the primaries, the first primaries, like Super Tuesday, feels like last year, honestly.
Yeah.
And I remember being so fired up. Like, I won't go into politics too much, but like, obviously, like, I have a horse in the race, and I was very pissed off when it wasn't going my way. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with everyone? And like, it feels like it was an entirely different lifetime.
Yeah, that is a very good point. It feels like, I mean, just even February is like, where was that? What? I was even looking, I can't remember what I was looking at, but something in early March that I was like, there's no way that was just 3 weeks ago. What?
Yeah.
What?
Our anniversary was March 9th. It hasn't even been a month. It's just crazy. I think the months will go faster as we go. I think that it'll be easier as we go. That it was just like that period of adjustment. But Star Trek. Oh, and video games, obviously, like playing a lot of like Nintendo Switch and like all these old games. Like, it's nice to escape to worlds that are consistent, and you have control. Like, that's that human thing. I need control because control of the situation right now is super limited, right? Like, there's an element of luck. There's an element of uncertainty. And when you can go into a game and know there's a linear path usually, and you can beat the bad guy at the end, like that's a good feeling.
Yeah, that is nice. That is good. It gives us all, you have to look at what you can control right now. And there's so little things that you can control that it's like, well, it's like the hand washing thing. It's like if everyone just, I can control if I wash my hands or not. So that's all I'm going to think about. And that's what I'm going to limit my view on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like watching anything or?
The only thing, it's hard. I mean, yes, I'm watching a lot of Doc McStuffins and a lot of Bubble Guppies and a lot of all my kids shows. They're all kids shows. They're like all everything. The kid is like a lot of Sesame Street, So we have that on a lot. But for my own stuff, like I haven't been watching too much stuff. I watch more of movies, and it's funny. I tend to keep myself like so busy that I don't even really get a lot of time to watch stuff. So that's been nice, is now that things are slowing down, that I'm not doing like comedy shows every night, that like, it's like, well, now I'm home and I'm home with my husband and our kids in bed. Well, let's we don't want a Corona baby. Let's watch a movie. Let's watch a movie. And it's been fun. Like, gosh, just last night we watched Infinity Baby, which is this like super weird indie film with Nick Offerman and Kieran McCulkin. That's what his name is. I was trying to say.
I haven't seen him in a while. Macaulay Culkin's been out there doing fucking everything, which is great. I really like him. I haven't seen from Kieran too much though.
Well, he's been on the HBO show. I can't remember the title, but he plays the same character on both, like in both things. Infinity Baby he plays like rich kind of asshole guy who can't commit to women, and like in that HBO show, which man, I can't believe I can't remember what it is. It's like oh man, I can't remember what it's called. You're very good on movie titles and years and Wikipedia facts. I'm like, no, I don't remember anyone's name, and I don't remember.
You would remember if we weren't live. I promise.
Yeah, right.
I'm the same way.
But yeah, he plays the same character in both. And but yeah, we watched that, and then we watched What About Bob, which is just
it's so good.
Yeah, 1990s Bill Murray, just like.
Did you know they actually hated each other? Really? Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray? Yeah, they fucking hated each other.
I love that. That's
there's a theory that Bill Murray purposely did it to get a better performance out of Richard Dreyfuss.
Well, it works. Like their performance is solid, but if you want to watch a film that like is strangely relevant to this time, it like starts out with Bill Murray just being like absolutely terrified of the outside world and terrified of touching anything, and like he just like. There is even, and I wish the opening credits, like in true 90s fashion, are like right over it. So because I was like, I would love to like pull this scene out as a meme, but you can't because it's like also says executive producer, whatever.
Yeah.
But like he's talking to his goldfish and he's like, well, it's time to go to work. And then he like pivots to his computer. And then he's like, all right, I'm here, And I was like, God, this is so like weirdly relevant. And that movie came out in, I think, like 92, 94.
He's like the poster child for proper social distancing.
Yes. It's like weirdly specific to our time. And then it's all like, it sort of encounters the psychological effects of that and how he's trying to break through to that. And his psychologist slowly melts down as he's working with him. And it's just funny. It's just a good movie.
It's a really great movie. I remember one of my instructors like used it in class. Students really, it's weird when you show movies to students, like you don't know what'll click and what does. But they really like that movie. It really holds up very well.
It does. And like I said, like we just watched it on a fluke because we watched Infinity Baby, and I had seen it before. I saw it at a film festival, and I remember it being like the funniest film like of that festival or whatever. I thought it was like so hilarious. And then we watched it again, and I was like, no, this was just weird. This was, moments I was like, this was just weird. Like, talk about a movie that an AI bot could have probably wrote. Like, that one might have been it. Like, it's just such a weird. The whole premise is like, there's a company, like a pharmaceutical company that was doing, research with stem cells, and they go into like the political background of like whatever. And anyways, there was sort of a mix up, and now they can make babies that never age. And Nick Offerman's character has spun that into this like very profitable business of like, well, now you can buy a baby that doesn't age and like whatever. And
weird.
So that's and it's all shot in black and white, and it's all like camera angles are like just like this, where it's like completely like close up, and it's a very strange film, but it's got its moments.
I'll have to check it out. I don't know. Yeah. Is it a A24 movie? Because it sounds like it is.
No. It didn't really get. I don't think it really got any. It's on Amazon Prime, but I don't think it really got any.
Was it produced by Prime?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was just an indie. And I remember because I saw the director at that film festival, and he was like just as weird. Like when we were asking him questions, it was like, "Oh, you're just as weird as this film. Like you are, you have made you in film version." Like, but yeah, I think it was independently produced. It was like indie to the very core.
Interesting.
One movie that I do recommend, because speaking of the 90s aesthetic, have you seen Brigsby Bear?
No, I'm familiar with it. I've never seen it though.
I loved it, and I think you'll love it too. But I loved like the short film they sort of made in companion with it. Do you know what the premise was of it?
No, I kind of remember. I'm thinking of another movie. I'm thinking of Death to Smoochie. These are separate things.
Yes. Well, Brigsby Bear only came out like 2 years ago. It was
Okay.
from SNL, and oh my gosh, Luke Skywalker. What's
Mark
his name?
Hamill.
Thank you, God. Like you said, because we're live. Totally missing me. So yeah, Mark Hamill, and it's basically Mark Hamill kidnapped Kyle Mooney as a little boy, took him into an underground bunker where they've been like living out their lives in this underground bunker, and Kyle Mooney has no idea of the outside world, kind of almost like a blast from the past thing. But the Mark Hamill has produced a bunch of TV series over the years called Brigsby Bear that just work as like, it's like a kid's show that he's made that answers this kid that he kidnapped questions about the world. And it's just such a ridiculous, the Brigsby Bear is like an actual bear suit, and it's voiced by Mark Hamill. And like, it's so weird.
Is he like doing the Joker voice?
No, but it's close to it though. It's close to it. But like one of the episodes, he's like, remember, it's okay to question the world around you, but you're not going to find the answers you're looking for.
Oh my God.
So hysterical because it's this like weird, the dad is trying to convince his son that like this is the world he lives in. And then, you know, like it's very similar to Blast from the Past though, where like he ends up, you know, going out and seeing the outside world and learning about it. But
so Mark Hamill's like super prominent in this.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll have to watch it.
It's fun. At least, like I said, they made a short film with it that's supposed to be one of the episodes, and that in itself is just like absolute madness. So much fun to watch, I think, anyways. But again, we laugh at weird, dark, ridiculous stuff. So I don't know if everybody else does, but
I laugh at weird, dark stuff, and I laugh at stuff. So one of my favorite things to watch, another thing that's been getting me by like for years actually, is like on YouTube. There's a channel called Red Letter Media. Oh, and have you ever seen the hour-long, or it's either an hour or 2 hours long review of episode 1, where it's just like a guy breaking down the Phantom Menace, like in excruciating detail, and it's like intercut, and you find out that he's like a serial killer, but it goes back and forth. I strongly recommend this, but it's called the character's called Mr. Plinkett, and he does reviews of like movies, like he does every Star Trek, every Indiana Jones, every Star Wars, but then they have another show on the channel called Best of the Worst.
Okay.
And they just watch really shitty movies and comment on them later on. And that's like that's my fucking vibe right there. Like just watch and it's the movies that are good are the ones that were made like intentionally to be good, but they turn out bad. Like the heart is there, the soul is there. The director has a vision, but the vision is just so bad, or they're just so technically inept.
Oh wow. We've been watching Caravan of Garbage, which sounds like it's the same thing, but it's these two New Zealand podcasters that they have a YouTube channel like that where, I mean, some of the editing that they throw on top of it is just as funny as the their actual comments themselves. Yeah,
so I love that. Like actual movies they're watching?
Yeah. They actually did the funniest one that we felt was they did the like 90s, early 2000s Spider-Man trilogy. They did a whole like series where they each watched that and they would like go through and talk about it, and it's hysterical.
Do people consider those garbage?
No, well, that's the thing. They were like some of them, because sometimes they do actually good movies, and they started out with like the first one being like, this is actually a solid film, like this is great, you know, whatever, and then just like slowly as they'd get to like the third one, they were like, oh no, you know, like,
here we go. The third one is objectively bad.
But like at the same time, they did Birds of Prey, the new movie that just came out, but then they also did an episode on Birds of Prey, the like 10 episode W series from 2001 or whatever. So just they cover a large range of stuff.
You know what though? I'm gonna blame. I haven't seen the new Birds of Prey. I'm gonna blame the reception in the box office on DC or Warner Brothers. Because they have fucked all of these movies up so bad. Like they changed the title to Harley Quinn: Birds of Prey. Call it Harley Quinn the movie to start out with, or just Birds of Prey to start out with. I heard it's a really good movie. I actually want to see it, but it's just so confusing the way that they release stuff and promote it.
Yeah. And I think Suicide Squad left such a bad taste in people's mouth that like Harley Quinn movie probably would have been great had they done that first. or something, you know, it probably would have been totally different, but they started out with Suicide Squad and it just had so many problems to it.
They were trying to make Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they failed. And then the guy that made Guardians of the Galaxy was fired, and then they hired him, and then they rehired him to make Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Such a weird cycle.
Yeah. He's everywhere right now. Well, we've been talking for over an hour and extended because we talked for a while before this. I love.
Yeah, it's been 2 hours.
Yeah, we haven't talked in probably like 2-3 years. Actually.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, no, this has been great. It's been so nice catching up with you. I've really enjoyed this. We should stop though for other people just to be considerate.
Yes.
People watching, but I thoroughly.
I think someone wants to Skype with you.
Yeah, everyone's been trying to get a hold of me, and I've just been like, ignore. But no, it's been so nice talking to you. It's been really great, you know, hearing your opinions on what's going on in the world, and then also just fascinating what you've been studying and stuff. So yeah, it's been so good talking to you, Alex. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk to you.
We'll have to do this again sometime, maybe not live.
But... Yeah. Can I really quick plug 2 things?
Yeah, of course.
Improv City's having their live show tonight, so check out Improv City on Facebook, and they're going live at 7:30. I think the schedule going forward is 7:30 on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Yes, and that's Pacific time.
Pacific time, yes. So I think that's going to be stable. We might be adding shows in the future to like maybe 9:30, like we did before, but right now it's 7:30, Friday and Saturday night. And my streaming channel is it's at twitch.tv. /Nintendo Bauer, all one word, all lowercase. And I'm going to start streaming this week.
Go ahead and put that in the comments too of this on the thing, or send it to me and I'll put it in the comments that way people can access that. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. Good talking to you.
You too.
All right, take care.
Bye.